Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Technology Accelerators, where we go through technology, innovation, AI, ChatGPT, anything that's a hot topic around technology projects, and ultimately helping you scale, grow, save money, get more efficient, and ultimately learn more. So, my goal is always to share knowledge and learning. So, today we're talking about why fail fast doesn't work and why you need an innovation flywheel instead. Because in my experience of doing a lot of work around innovation, there's a lot of fail fast mantras out there. The values around now, let's get to failure quickly so we can learn from it. But there's a secret to that, and it doesn't work. And I want to just tell you how to do it differently. So, as always, keep your questions coming in. Got a lot of questions before this, and I'll make sure I answer them during the session. But if you have any during the session, just pop them up into the chat, and I'll keep checking every now and again to see everyone joining and everyone's questions coming in. So, always love doing these things. It's thank you again for joining. It's great to see you here. And let's jump into it. Let's get into why innovation fails, and more specifically, why fail fast fails. There's a bit of a mouthful. While fail fast fails. So let's talk about that. So innovation as a whole, so the thing is, there's so much expectation around innovation. Everyone wants to be innovative, come up with new ideas. It's exciting as well. You want to come up with new ideas and break new ground and do new things. But the problem with innovation, it has to be managed like anything in technology. It has to be managed the right way. The secret is you need a framework. I know that sounds dull and boring and constraining. And even if it's agile and even if it's fast delivery, it still needs this framework. And that's absolutely key. So when we talk about moving fast, we have to be really careful about failing fast. And that leads me to my first point about why innovation fails. And we talk about fail fast. So what I've seen here is when you say, hey, IT team, technology team, innovation team, go fail fast, what actually happens is that the business users, the sponsors, whoever's got a vested interest in this, actually sees that as an excuse to fail. Can you believe that? They actually realize that they can fail. They're being given permission to fail, or they'll judge that it fails. Even though it may be a success, they're saying, nope, it's failing. They just don't want to be part of it. And that's why I really struggle and I don't like using fail fast, because for a start, it puts fail up front. Fail is the word you see and the word you expect, and that's just not good. I much prefer learn fast. Like, how do we move on from this? So fail fast is not good because it just sets the wrong expectations. It gives permission for teams to fail, for people to set expectations around failing. So don't do that. The second reason why innovation often fails is data. Getting access to the right data, or not having permissions to use the data, or how you then share the data. There's so much constraint and policies and guidelines around how data is used. And bottom line is, yes, for good reason. At the end of the day, data is an asset. As we know, it's something to protect, to look after. How you use it, how you share it is important. But don't let that be a constraint to your innovation. Work with the people who own the data, the people who look after the data. And yes, I'm looking at you, legal and the internal audit people and the risk people. I know you've got the company benefits at heart, and yes, that's the job. But just be aware of, okay, how do we make this work? How can we work together on using the data to just trial something out, test something out, and prove it out? Because at the end of the day, most of us don't want to do anything wrong with the data or expose the company. And our job is, absolutely take the advice of legal advice, risk and internal audit. Great service. That's really helpful for us in terms of guidelines. But what I say is, where is my data, is being able to get access to the data. So what I've seen work well is setting up the expectations around, here's how we're going to use the data. We'll promise not to expose it or send it out to the public or send it to anyone who shouldn't be seeing that data. Masking data is also good if you disguise the data you're using. So that's the challenges that not getting access to data. So the next one is, it's interesting. It's no's and yeses. So you're probably thinking, John, why have you got no's and yeses? Well, it's both sides of the same coin. So too many no's. I often see no, that won't work, or no, it's going to fail, similar to point one, and just no's in terms of doing something new. We have a big corporate culture around no and not doing things. Let's do it. We've always done it this way. And it takes a big deal to move it to the, okay, let's think about that. Let's do yes and instead. But on the flip side, too many yeses means you get too many ideas and you end up doing too much and overwhelming the team. So you got to find that magic sweet spot, between the no's and the yeses. Like, have some no's because you can't do everything, but also you can't do everything from a yeses point of view either. So having a good way to rank, prioritize your ideas and innovation is absolutely key. And we'll come on to that in the next slide. The next reason innovation fails is because of expecting quick results. A lot of folks I see around, okay, let's do innovation because we want to get going quickly, and they expect a result really, really quickly within days sometimes, or a couple of weeks. And that's just not realistic. In fact, I don't know any startup even that would be able, or even any manufacturing team that would be able to produce a product really quickly. If it was just you producing just something on your own, sure, you could probably get a initial product out pretty quickly. But as soon as it needs to get productionized or commercialized, that takes time. So expecting quick results in terms of the end product, or MVP, the minimum viable product, it won't be quick. But what you can do is make that journey, bring people along for the journey, show results along the way, show the progress. And that's really, really important, is showing the progress, because then you can decide if the product needs to pivot, need to do something new, or or getting someone else to help. I've seen this so many times, especially with IT solutions, launching a new software product. We see a functionality, we put it in front of the users. They're expecting the end result, that very fast, quick result, the end customer-facing interface quickly. And it just doesn't turn out that way quickly. They see it and then give feedback, and then it goes around the cycle, which I'm going to come on to in the flywheel in a second. And then the final point, all about ideas. So similar to the yeses, this is where we have too many ideas and we don't do anything with them. And this is probably the number one biggest problem, is that we have so many ideas. Where do we start with all of these? Especially when we have these idea tracking sheets in companies, which are an awesome idea, by the way. Getting feedback from your staff, your customers and other stakeholders, and tracking all your new ideas in one place is a really good thing to do. However, if all you do is track the ideas and then you get stuck in this analysis paralysis of which one to move forward, or it takes a long time to show results, because as we just said on point number 4, sometimes it does take time. As a result of that, all we just see is the ideas and we don't see any delivery. So that's the other thing, is we report progress along the way, and I'll talk to that in a second. So those are the 5 reasons why innovation fails. We give permission to fail fast, and then people expect failure. We don't have the access to the data. There's too many no's or too many yeses. You need to find that sweet spot of just the right amount so you don't overwhelm the organization in terms of delivery. You're expecting quick results when in reality, good results take a while, several months or even years to get to the end result, but you can show progress along the way, and that's the trick. And if it's all number 5, just all about the ideas, then you don't actually get into delivery. So taking all that, putting it all together, how do we get to doing innovation the right way? We've talked about why fail fast doesn't work. So let's talk about doing it the right way. And here's where I love the idea of moving through the design thinking process. So we start with the observe, reflect, and make. And I actually talked about that in a previous video. Go check it out, because I go into depth in terms of the observe, reflect, and make. And this is the IBM design thinking. There are lots of different frameworks for design thinking, but I really like this one because it's short, succinct, and easy to apply. So taking that from a design thinking point of view and then applying it to innovation, here's where you need to build it out. So design thinking is just one element of innovation done right. What you need to do is add the design thinking steps, the 3 steps there, to what I call the innovation flywheel. So I love this. This innovation flywheel has 5 distinct stages, and you'll notice it's circular because true innovation, true continuous improvement doesn't stop. As soon as you get to the idea delivered, you then get the feedback on the new ideas to improve it, and then you continue the cycle. So what I'm going to do now is walk you through those 5 stages of the innovation flywheel. And I love the term flywheel because flywheels keep going. Once they get momentum, it really starts going. And the key here is we're not going to get stuck in design thinking or just the ideas. We're actually going to get to delivery. And that's the secret sauce there, folks. You're actually going to show results. So let's step through it. First, as always, starts with the ideas. Everyone knows this. That's pretty common. Start with collecting those ideas. Get feedback from your teams. Get feedback from your customers, your stakeholders. Track them in an idea tracker. I love internet portals and websites where you make it accessible to everyone in the company or all your customers. Gather it all in one place. There's a lot of great tools out there to create idea trackers. And then when you get these ideas, group them up by technology. So it could be AI or chatbot or process automation or reporting, and then group them into what I call business pathways. So these are pathways related to the business functions. So they could be customer experience, productivity, if it's internal development, or manufacturing, asset management, inventory, or financial. So if you're grouping them up by the pathway and then the technology, it's very easy to quickly see which idea is related to which topic. And then you prioritize them. So here's the trick. When you're prioritizing them, don't use the Eisenhower matrix of urgent, important. That doesn't work. It only goes part way because it just tells you what's most important and urgent right now. When in reality, the trick is you need to identify what creates impact. I'll say that again because it's really important. When you're prioritizing ideas for innovation or indeed any project, even just down to how you're spending your time, think about the impact you create later on. What can you do today? What can you invest time in doing today that gives you time back in the future? What saves time in future? Think of it as compounding interest on your money in the bank or stocks and shares. So you invest a small amount of money at the beginning, but as the interest compounds over time, that growth of your funds and your money exponentially grows. So that's what you want to do. You want to create impact later on by what you can do today. And then once you have all the ideas, you start to then prioritize them. So you've picked out the ones that have the biggest impact. And this is where you get into the design thinking. This is the first stage of design thinking where you get into observe. This is where you live the world of your users. Deep dive into what is the true problem here. See what they're doing. See how they work on a day-to-day basis. Understand what they go through. What challenges do they have with the report? How do they have a challenge getting the data? I love this question. This is the most important question, and ironically, it's the most important in the question. I always ask my stakeholders and my customers, what's most important to you right now? I'll say that again because it's such an easy question, but so often missed. What's most important to you right now? We always think as experts, we know what's most important. But in reality, we need to ask them because often we see things we didn't know, we didn't understand, we didn't appreciate. One of the recent example is where one of my customers was actually printing out a dashboard, and I was brought in to help streamline this process. And I talked to them, I said, "Why are you printing this out?" And they said, "Well, the dashboard doesn't work on the iPads." I said, "What do you mean? It was designed for the iPads." He said, "No, it doesn't work because although it shows on the iPad, we can't do anything with it. And as soon as we rotate the screen, it doesn't rotate with it. It just doesn't format well. So we end up printing it out. It's much easier to print out and just write on it." So even in this day and age, they were still printing this electronic dashboard. A small tweak, a really small tweak, believe it or not, to allow the rotation on the iPad to work, and then the zoom in, zoom out, and to drill into the dashboard, switching that on was game changing. Such a simple technique, but we wouldn't have found that out if we hadn't asked what was most important to you. And all they wanted to do was have it easily accessible on the iPad. They actually didn't want to print it, but they had to because it was the only way to get to the result they wanted. So you observe. What do they do day to day? How do they work? What's most important to them? Live their life, walk in their shoes. And then once you've observed, you're observed on this one problem you want to solve, then you start getting to the reflect. How might we solve this? It's another great design thinking technique. How might we? And I love that term, how might we, because you're not asking what is the solution or what can we do? It's how could we do it? Because you automatically start to bring your brain into a different way of thinking about how it could be solved as opposed to what is the answer, because we're the expert. And this is where I love bringing in diverse thinking, bring in different ideas from different groups, new ways to think about how you can solve the problem. So talking to other people in different groups, understanding how they do it, doing internet research, of course, even plug it into ChatGPT. It's all about this diverse thinking about what you can do to reflect on the potential solution. And then you rate it based on certainty and risk of delivery. So I talked about this last week in my previous video on the reflect section, where how certain is it that you'll do it? Is it highly certain you know how you're going to solve this, or less certain, not sure how to solve it? And then what's the risk? Is it if we deliver and it goes wrong, what's the exposure? What's the risk? What's the impact? If it's high risk because it could impact financials or reputation of the company, then you'll probably want to pick more of a lower risk solution, which is just internal, maybe only impacts a couple of people or only one team if it doesn't go well. So that's how you rate it. Pick the lower risk, higher certain ideas and move forward with those in terms of the solution. Then you move out to make, the third section in design thinking, and the fourth section in the innovation flywheel. So you're making it, and this is where you prove it out, understand how it works. You start to make progress and results by showing your progress and results. And I know it sounds weird, but the amount of times I see teams say, "Yep, we're nearly there, we're nearly there, we're nearly there," and then and it just drags on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then it gets shut down because they're seeing no progress. So my number one advice here is make sure you report progress to the goal of what you're trying to achieve and get people bought into that. It's not just you as a lead or you as the team reporting this. Make sure everyone's aware of your progress, because as you share that progress, people are bought into it. Plus, they might have additional resources or ideas or ways to fix it. This is where dashboards are your friend. When you're working through perhaps a number of ideas at the same time, and I'm always up for, I advise to work on more than one innovation idea at a time, is have a progress tracking dashboard of all the ideas you're in the make stage, the status, and then you have a good pipeline of some that are in early stage and some that are in later stage. So then you have a continuous conveyor belt of ideas being delivered in the make stage. And that's really, really important, because then your results, which take a bit of time, become faster and more accelerated because it's different products, different innovation ideas delivering more often. And bear in mind, as I said earlier, in the way innovation fails, this takes time. And that's where that innovation, the pipeline comes in to make sure you're delivering results more often. So you're moving through the make, and then we move into step 5, which, before we go into ideas again, step 5 is really, really important, because you need to sustain that idea, that delivery. So this is where you're proving in the wild. So you've made it, step 4. It's with users, it's delivering its results, but then monitor the progress. How's it working? What's working well? What's working not well? Do a look back, get feedback. It's so important to get feedback from everyone. Just to ask, do quick spot check surveys, just send out anonymous surveys, do coffee chats with the users. How's it going? Again, what's most important to you right now? You're using this. What's working? What's not working? And then here's where the magic happens. Here's the flywheel. So that feedback then feeds into the ideas. That's when it moves to that next stage and continuously improves. That's when you get the flywheel. So once you're in sustain, you may decide to actually kill the idea. Maybe it's not a good idea and you cease it and just say, okay, let's end this idea because we've proven it out. We got to some results, but it's not worth continuing. That's normal as well. making the brave choices is always a good idea. But if it's good, maybe you want to prove it, then you go through the ideas, then observe, reflect, make, and sustain. He goes back around this flywheel. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the beauty of the innovation flywheel. It's a continuous, it's not a pipeline, it's not a one and done framework end to end like waterfall. It's a continuous loop. And you're throwing out ideas and new delivery all the time. And that's what really shows results, is you have that innovation output on a regular basis. Once again, it's not about failing fast. We don't talk about failure in this innovation flywheel, and that's really, really important. Is make sure that you're talking about learning, observing, reflecting, making, and then sustaining. So that, as I said, that's the innovation framework and the innovation flywheel, and how you apply a framework to your innovation. And I really hope that was useful. And this is difficult, folks. It's a challenging area, and we've only really scratched the surface in this session today. Takes a lot of time to go through this. If you need to reach out and understand a bit more about this, always love to chat. The other thing I'd advise, make sure you get an expert involved. Make sure you get someone involved to help you through this. Even if it's just conversations, I'm more than happy to chat with you, talk through my experience of innovation flywheel and how it can apply to you and help your innovation and ultimately benefit your companies with saving cost and being more efficient. So I want to say thank you, but also let you know about a pilot program that I'm running. I'm running a technology accelerator pilot. So in the true sense of innovation, applying it to myself, I'm wanting to get feedback on one of my new service offerings, the technology accelerator. So I'm actually looking for 5 business leaders to take part in my technology accelerator pilot program. It's starting up soon, so reach out to me. I'd love to talk more about how we can apply this to help you adopt new technology, innovation, and ultimately save you cost and become more efficient. So if you'd like to chat more, reach out, send me a DM or drop me an email, john@wedeliveryourvision.com. And in the meantime, always love to have a chat, and we'll see you in the next Technology Accelerator video.